Okay. Hello, everyone. This is the lecture on spirituality that was missed by two of the sections, but which I am sharing for the benefit of everybody else, including those whom I have already met face to face. This is the more extensive and complete one. So if you just want to go through it and review it, even if we've already discussed this, it might actually be helpful for you to look at the first part. For those of you who met with me the last time when we discussed this, the latter part of this lecture is something that I have not actually tackled. So if you wish, you can just proceed to the second half if we've already met before. So the first thing that we need to do is really just to lay out the definition of spirituality. This is something that you're already familiar with. If you read the readings on spirituality by McGrath and Kierkegaard, and based on their discussion, they define spirituality, or at least the concept of it, as living your life with the purpose of making sure that your life is fulfilled, whole, and authentic. And I think we will play around these terminologies because they're very important, especially in this time that we live in now, wherein there's a lot of projections and how should I say projections and trying to live up to certain expectations that might not have been imposed on us by ourselves. Now, if you are going to look at this concept within the framework of religion, especially Christianity, then this simply means the same thing. The goal is to live a fulfilled, whole, and authentic life, but using this time the resources that are available to us within that religious framework. And in this case, it's Christian spirituality. Now, this is not to say that the tools that are available within the Christian traditions are the only tools. In fact, even if you would want to still work within the Christian spirituality, which I think provides for us very good, useful, and reasonable tools, especially if we follow the framework, at least the healthy way, then it is a very good framework, no? But I think based on our personality and other aspects of our life, we might want to consider adding on other tools from other frameworks as well. And I think this comes from the belief that truth does not just reside on one framework. It is possible that a framework and each of the framework have a dose of this truth. And it is up to us to really discover how we can utilize this truth in order to live what we would call a fulfilled, whole, and authentic life. So what I'm just trying to say is, even within the religious tradition, the goal really is for us to be able to work within these frameworks and be able to live a life that is fulfilling, that is whole, and that is authentic. It is something that we must choose for ourselves, as you remember in the lecture on faith. Now, of course, in order for us to know whether we are living such kind of life, there are certain criteria that we hope to be able to see and imbibe in our life, assuming that we are utilizing the resources in order to live a very spiritual life. And I'm using the term here, not just within the religious or the traditional faith framework. Okay, so the things that we want to see is a proportionately increased insight and joy. And this is not just a feeling, no, an increase in the positive aspect of what we feel, but there's also increased wisdom, increased in the things that we know, and hopefully it is something that's positive. And when we talk about joy, I'm not talking about the kind of positive emotion, which is just temporary and fleeting, even if those are very, very important in order for us to survive and to thrive. No, what we are aiming for is something that is deeper and long term. And hopefully, even those that are short term and temporary will collectively contribute to that. The other criteria that we hope to see in a life that is defined by spirituality is, of course, the whole person. And the whole person does not just involve ourselves. Otherwise, that will really entail a very self-serving goal, no? But we also see our whole person in connection with the people around us, our communities, and the more we expand the communities, the better it is for us. But it's not just people that we are concerned with. We are also concerned with the environment and the entire structure of society. Like, for example, justice, the structure of justice, the structure of governance, the structure of healthcare, the structure of education, so that hopefully as we mature, our lives will become increasingly more beneficial to these structures and to the environment around us. So this is not a simple hedonistic goal where we just want to make ourselves happy. No, the 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 interesting thing about spirituality is we attain happiness not only if we fulfill our own joy, but also as we fulfill the happiness of the many elements that contribute to our existence. So this is not a very self-serving endeavor at all. The next one is that it is a lived experience. Even if when we were talking about faith, that we were really speaking about it in abstract terms, even if we tried very, very hard to think of categories that will help us understand it more by looking at real life scenarios and other kinds of metaphors. No, but this time spirituality is how you really live out your faith, how you make use of the tools, and how it interfaces with your actual day-to-day experiences. And hopefully, collectively, that will show something in the future, no? Something that is not just good for you, but good for everybody else and everything else around you. The last one is that it is self-transcending. This is not a you will not be when you practice spirituality, you will not be competing against other people. This is not like when you are trying to achieve your goals in life, so that every now and then such goals will require you to compete with other people in terms of position and credentials and maybe wealth and so on and so forth. But spirituality is transcending your own self, meaning you always seek for self-improvement, and everything else that pertains to your person. Okay. Now, if we look at it again from the Christian tradition, it's well, at least the perspective from the Christian tradition, and I think more or less this is true with other religious tradition, is that there is an experience of God, God being the object of your faith. Now, it doesn't always mean, remember when we were talking about faith, it is possible to have several objects of our faith, and they don't necessarily have to compete with each other, no? But the ultimate result of this, if we live out the kind of spirituality that is healthy and desired for a life that is whole and authentic, then the goal is really a transformation of our consciousness. Transformation of consciousness, meaning you know yourself more, you know what makes you happy more, you know what brings joy, you know what brings relevance, and you know what it means to live a truly authentic and meaningful life. No? And within the Christian tradition, we use resources like disciplined life of prayer, meditation, and so on and so forth. But like I said, even if you are within the religious tradition, and I think it is healthy for one to be in a healthy religious framework, there are still resources outside of it that can enrich your religious experience. Okay. Now, if we put all of this together, these are the terminologies that we really want to see, no, or at least be familiar with. There is a sense of knowing, even if we might not fully know everything, but we mature. There is a sense of experience, and as we mature through the phases of our life, hopefully in each of the phases we live life to the full, and hopefully, as we live each phase to the full, there is also a transformation of existence, meaning there is an increased insight and increased experience of joy. And hopefully, as we move through our maturity, there is an experience of authenticity. And like I said, authenticity, if you remember, it was in our discussion of faith, freedom is a very big aspect of it, but freedom doesn't always mean having just merely choosing the easy way out. No, sometimes you have to choose. You have to make difficult choices in order for you to experience faith to the fullest and even authenticity to the fullest as well. Now, in faith, we mentioned that we can never achieve our absolute self, and that's okay because there is still premium to living authentically bit by bit. Okay. Now, what does it really mean to live authentically? That's the question, no? Because authenticity is still a very abstract term. Now, in the readings that you have supposedly read, one of the things that they have suggested is the idea of being present. And this means awareness as much as possible throughout the day. And what does it really mean to be aware? It doesn't necessarily mean you're awake only, no? And I think because of the many distractions that are available to us, easily accessible to us, it is increasingly becoming difficult to be aware of those things that allow for life to be really authentic. Let me give you an example. No? We get very, very distracted, and we always have this idea that in order for one person to be very, very productive, that person must be multitasking all the time. And so we like having our distractions around so that if I actually did not disallow you to use your digital gadgets, most likely you will be using them now while taking notes and while claiming to be listening. No? When you are eating, you don't necessarily savor the experience, not just the experience, but even the taste of the food. No? All your senses are not dedicated to it because most likely while you're eating, you're also scrolling through your phone. No? In fact, the irony right now is that you wake up with your thumb on the screen of your phone, or maybe sleep, no, with the thumb, with your thumb on the screen of your phone, and wake up to the same position. Maybe you woke up at the middle of the night and you briefly looked at your phone, and uh, it has become a part of our reflexes, regardless of how aware we are or not. And I think this availability of distraction to us is really keeping us from having a full experience of some of the simplest, most basic things that actually contribute to us having a full and authentic experience of these elements of our life. And I don't even have to present the studies that tell us, no, that one of the reasons why it is so easy for us to go to AI rather than thinking for our own self is that it's easy. It allows us for more time to be distracted. Um, and I think because of this constant competition of these many things that call our attention, we are no longer challenged to think of original ideas. No, and there is a recent study that in one of the Ivy League schools, I think it was Harvard who did it, that tells us that the more you actually multitask, the lesser is your capacity to come up with very, very big ideas. Now, those of you who are in the personality type 5 have an easier, uh, have, um, may find it easier to really focus, no? Because that's one of the strengths of your personality. But at the same time, that kind of focus that helps you, or not helps, no, but makes you detach from your own body. So that's the irony of that kind of focus. Your brain is so focused, it puts you into a different kind of world altogether, wherein you can focus on just one thing without really getting distracted with other things. And that might allow you to actually come up with very novel ideas. But at the same time, the trade-off of that is it might actually not allow you to live an authentic life, no, because you miss out on some of the most important experiences in life that might be very basic, but actually allows us to live authentic lives. Like, for example, socializing. What else? Having or enjoying deep relationships, even with just a few people. No, because it's something that those who are very, very strongly and unhealthy vibes would normally try to run away from. Okay. The next one that we would want to do, no, when we try to live an authentic life is really seeing our personality and authentic self in action. And when I say personality, I'm talking about the healthy aspect of that personality. And that means that will require not acting out our impulses. Now, each of these personalities have their own tendencies, their own impulses. That the personality will immediately try to do without thinking. No, it is the reflex. It is the reflex reaction to certain things, and that I will show in a while. No, and I think having a exhibiting the healthy aspect of our personality in order for us to really be able to live authentically is demanding from us to back off for a certain period of time. Maybe it's long or extended or maybe short, no? Just for us to have or exercise insight in terms of how we can healthily react to certain scenarios or say certain experiences. Okay, for example, a type 8 personality, a very strong 8 personality, if there is a like a project or a problem, the immediate response of a number 8 personality is actually to try to control, no? To try to assess the situation and say, how will I approach this project so that it will give the best output? And that might make the person decide to not consider the voices of the other people within the team, no? Um, those in the type 8, and I'm one of them, have the tendency to actually exhibit certain symptoms of, well, not the clinical type of narcissism, but to actually think that a certain idea, and most of the time it's theirs, is actually the best approach. No, they're high strung in that sense. So the tendency is always to try to control, no, or to try to say something, or to even go against the ideas of other people, especially if you consider those ideas as inferior to your own, no? And I think there is a value, even if it's really true, that the ideas of other people, let's say in your group, is um, not as superior as your own idea. I think there is still value in terms of just sitting back and allowing for other people to give their own voice and allow them to control the situation, even if it might actually mean that the project might fail to a certain extent, no? What are the premiums to that? Relationships, no? Discovering deeper relationships, discovering the gift of being able to dialogue and not controlling, not dominating the voice of a certain team. And I think there's really a benefit to that. Another example would be, let's say, type 7. No, these are your highly excitable people. If they hear of an event or an something that's going on uh, which is being done by a community that they are part of, let's say a party, the impulse is to actually immediately cancel all uh, their other engagements, even if those engagements are actually more important than the party itself. No, it's just because they think that's more fun. So let's say there's an exam tomorrow. A type 7 might say, "Screw it, I'll review the next day." No, that's the knee-jerk reaction of a type 7. So living authentically does not immediately mean, okay, I have the choice to be able to, I have the freedom to make that choice, but really to make a more insightful, a more informed decision that will benefit you, not just in the short term, but in the long term and in a collective term, right? Now, being present is not something that will happen automatically. This is not something which is just tell yourself, okay, I'm going to be present, especially because of the kind of world that we live in now. I'm not saying that it was easier before. Even the older generations have their own distractions. Like during my time, there was the television. There were other things that were going on. No, it's just that the tendency of people is we think that being productive or being a relevant person or an authentic person or a person that should be admired by other people. It's somebody who is really, really productive in terms of output. But even even then, no, a few decades ago, and the same as now, the distraction just differed. But sometimes being present might actually mean pausing, not doing anything. And in my classes, I usually use the example of my two boys. No, I have a 13-year-old son and a 10-year-old son, and both of them have gadgets. And as much as I want to get rid of those gadgets, they're also necessary right now in terms of how people function. No, like for example, because I'm a single mom, I need to be able to get in touch with them and make sure that they're safe. No, at the same time, the eldest boy needs it in school. Apparently, researchers nowadays, like there are things that teachers will ask you, which might require you to uh, Google the information. No, of course, before there were ways by which more difficult ways by which we approach such a problem. But apparently nowadays, people just need the information right at the instant, no? Um, and so I'm really trying to lessen their engagement with their digital with the gadgets when they are home. And so initially I would impose um, digital breaks. No? And my oldest son would say, okay, I won't play my games. I won't look at Google or Wikipedia, but can I listen to music? And so I noticed that he would study with his earphones on. And I thought this is not actually the goal of what I am asking him to do. Even when he goes to sleep, he says, can I just put my earbuds on and listen to music as I sleep? And so on top of the digital break, what we do now is that we have to have a time for being bored. Like really not doing anything except, well, if they want to play, then they can play. But at least this is the time where they can think of other things aside from having part of their brain engage with something that comes out of their gadget. And it was very, very difficult. And I'm not sure if you've actually seen um, this post about a cafe. I think it's in another country where people go there and not do anything. They can eat, they should not sleep even, uh, but they are not supposed to do anything else. And I think that's not very easy to do. It's not just at this time, but anytime, no? Uh, even even in the past, because we always associate relevance with authenticity. Now, we want relevance for us means one has to be doing something else. One has to be busy all the time. And so we don't know anymore what it means to get bored. But researchers will tell you that the most unique ideas actually come up when you are bored, when your brain is empty. Let me give you another example about why I claim that being bored is very, very difficult, or emptying the mind is very, very difficult to do. No, like for example, let's say you engage in an exercise, like, and I'm not talking about uh, like yoga. No, I'm not talking about yoga as a just merely a physical exercise, but an activity of meditation. Yoga, for if you're doing it as a form of meditation, as it was or, originally conceptualized, because nowadays it is used for exercises and things like that. No, the initial intention for it is for the one who is practicing it to be aware of his or her own breathing. So how basic is that? No, my question is, when was the last time that you are really aware of your own breathing? Or maybe aware of the feeling of the wind against your skin, the feeling of the the sensation of your clothes on your skin. Did you know that there is such a thing, no? Um, the sound of silence. Now that is a paradoxical claim, and it almost sounds oxymoron if there's such a terminology, no. But there was this one time when we were in the mountains, and I went to the car. It was parked in a place where there was no electricity. There was nobody else. No, we were camping at that time, and I needed to get something out of the car. So I went to the car, and while I was getting whatever it is I was trying to get from the car, I realized that it was very quiet, and there was actually a sound to it. No, that was the first time I realized that there is really a sound uh, when everything else is very, very quiet. It's almost like a ringing in the ear. No, when was the last time you become so aware of those things? And I think really tapping into the deepest core of ourselves really means being aware of these basic things, the things that we're supposed to enjoy um, in a deeper sense and in a longer sense. No, not things that are very temporary and very short term. No? And I think when we get engaged with that deeper aspect of ourselves, then we are also placed in a space where we are able to interrogate ourselves more. No, and that's when I go to the second point, where it puts us in a space where we are able to actually interrogate even the uncomfortable aspects and limitations of our personality. If you remember the last time we talked about faith, I said that we always have this tendency to project. And I'm not saying that it's bad to project. In fact, it can be quite useful in order for us to thrive in the environment that we are placed in order for us to be successful in our goals, no? Uh, but I think the question is, when we get home in our room, are we able to contend even with the ghost of ourselves, no? The weakness, our own weaknesses, and really interrogate them in a healthy way and be able to say, you know what, this is okay, and I don't have to break down mentally in order for me to accept it, no? Because like I said, one of the disadvantages of always trying to uh, look or appear productive and relevant is we're also putting on a certain sense of a spiritual glamour. So even if spiritual is such a theological term or a term that's always associated with religion, I'm not talking about that sense. No, I'm talking about the glamour that we try to cover up ourselves with. in order for us to look appealing to other people and maybe even to ourselves. No, there is a certain form of um, denial that we tell ourselves, and we cease to have genuine realizations about ourselves. And I think if that constantly happens, it can be very, very dangerous. No, we can become disillusioned people who will come to the end of our lives finding ourselves regretting many of the things that we did in our lives, no? Because most of those things uh, are just temporary and can be very, very superficial, even if they're very, very relevant as we go through life. I hope you're getting what I'm trying to point out here, no? Um, so being present really calls for a constant willingness to think for ourselves. It is not simply accepting a certain, what it says here, a certain dogma or ready-made answers. Like, for example, our own definition of success. Often that is dictated to us by society or by our parents. I'm not saying that they are wrong or that society is wrong or what is normative is wrong. No, I think there is a certain correctness to those kinds of constructs. But at the same time, we should be able to determine what's really best for us, now what will make us happy in the long term, what will give us a sense of authenticity and fullness and fulfillment. So that at the end of our lives, whenever that may happen, then we are able to say, you know what, even those things, those negative things that I experienced, the mistakes that I have committed, I don't necessarily regret them, no, because they really added to the increase insight and joy, that we were talking about earlier on. Okay, so because being present is not something that can happen automatically, it is really very important for us to hone it. And one of the basic and the most important requirement of being present is detachment. So it's something that you actually have to regularly practice in order for you to be energized to face the world. No, my personality, people think that I'm an extroverted person because I easily can socialize. Um, I don't shy away from certain engagement. But the reality is, I think I'm really more of an ambivert, no? I can make myself socialize, but at the end of the day or at a certain point, I really have to rest and get back all the energy in order for me to do that again the next time, no? And it is during this rest period, um, during the times when I am on my own and I don't have to really concern myself with other thoughts and other people, that I am able to interrogate myself. And these are those times when I really try to enjoy a certain spiritual practice. And you might be surprised, no, that when I talk about spiritual practice, I'm not simply just talking about practices like prayer, although they are considered, no, depth of it, or meditation, or the usual rituals that we go through during, in order for us to comply with religious rites, no. There are other things that can really make us grounded and be more in tune with ourselves. And there is no one single practice that will work for everybody else. You remember that I keep talking about personality, and this is where the relevance of personality will come in, because there are certain types of practices that will be very, very easy for certain personalities, and because it's so easy, it might not really be the best thing for them to do, no, because it doesn't. Sometimes the paradox is that it's the discomfort, a little bit of discomfort, that makes us feel more in tune or more aware and more grounded to ourselves, no? And that is something that we will talk about in a little while. Just to summarize, no, the seven things, seven aspects that we need to work on when we try to aspire for a healthy dose of spirituality is seeking truth, no? Like I said, truth cannot just be found in one place, in one system, in one kind of worldview. I think we have to find it in a combination of worldview, no? And to transform ourselves and get ourselves grounded, it's really not in doing so much, no, but in detaching, especially detaching from those things that normally call for our attention. Um, I know that most of the time we try to face our day by starting with the most urgent task, no? But they can actually serve as distractions for being grounded and being authentic to our own selves. The willingness to be open, no? The willingness to take in even certain uncomfortable practices, but really will work for us and getting proper support whenever we find ourselves in a space that challenges our mental health. No, the good thing nowadays is that there's a lot of support available to us, primarily because of a greater increase in awareness of mental health issues. And number five is something that's very important, you know, learning from everything. We might be disillusioned into thinking that if we have plenty of the usual resources that we normally find to be very useful, like money, credentials, status, education, that we actually know everything else. So the paradox is that even the best education can inform you of everything. Um, and knowing everything else, trying to open ourselves to learn from everything else might actually push us to learn even from people and from experiences that we normally consider to be inferior to our own. In order for you to get to know more of society, you don't just have to read books. No, you really have to go to the ground and see what is out there. So it's not enough for us to say, ang bobobo nila. I know something because I'm educated. No, if you really want to know what happens on the ground, your theories are not enough to explain those. No, you really have to go there and experience it for your own self. So a very mature person is somebody who will not shy away from these experiences, even if they cannot, if often they are very uncomfortable. Of course, the number six is cultivating real love of self. I think we have overemphasized the aspect of spirituality that seems to cater for the self, but I think there are certain personalities where loving yourself is very difficult to do. Like, for example, type 2, no, those who are always trying to serve others often find themselves neglecting their own selves. No? And the last one, which I think is very, very necessary, and which is the one that I want to emphasize, at least for this part of the module, is having a practice. It's very important to have a practice. Having a sense of self, a deeper sense of self, a deeper self-awareness that leads to an authentic life does not happen automatically. It doesn't even happen even if you know it conceptually. No, you know it in theory or without it. It's really calling yourself to do the hard work in order for you to get to the deeper aspects of yourself. Okay. Now, okay. So, uh, let's go to before we go to the possible practices of um, well, at least sample of the practices that you might want to engage in, at least just to give you an idea in terms of the range of possibilities. These are the marching orders or the tendencies of each of the personalities. So for example, number one, you will always feel good or okay. Well, at least that's the idea, no? That for as long as you're doing what is right, morally and justly, you feel good and okay, no? But you should really ask yourself, how do you even know what's right? Are you the one who dictates that? No? Or is it dictated by a certain institution of society? But does that really work for everybody else? Is that standard objective or subjective, or is it just constructed, no, by people? You have to come to terms with the reality that you struggle to be good, but in reality, given this personality, there's never a state that's good enough, no, especially for your super ego. So you're always trying to aim for it. Number two, no, these are the helping kind of people. They want to serve people all the time. So you feel good or okay if you are loved by others, and you feel that you are loved by others if you keep doing things for them, to the extent sometimes that you actually disregard your own self. Okay. So the question that you should ask yourself is, uh, why does your worth, depend so much on doing things for others? No, how do you actually know if they are loving you just because you're doing something for them? Who knows? They might actually just be taking advantage of you because they know that you're the kind of person who will come to the rescue every time they call, Uh, and the interesting thing is, no matter, the thing that I want you to really come to terms with is that you continue to do that, and yet you still feel unloved. You will never get there, no? So you might as well slap yourself in the face and tell yourself, I don't have to do this all the time. I can also take care of myself, and I'm sure there are still people who will love me. Number three, you are good or okay if you do something valuable. No, remember these are the people who attach their self-worth with status, no? Whatever defines that status. So you should be asking yourself, uh, why is that even it? No, why is it status? What makes you valuable? What if you lose that all of a sudden? What if you lose the credentials or you don't attain it? What if all of a sudden, let's say money is the one thing that you think makes you complete? All of a sudden you lose all of that. Okay. Why do you have to attach your value to that? And where does it end? Why do you have to keep accomplishing things? And why do you have to exhaust yourself so much in order to feel worthwhile? And there's never going to be an end to it to begin with. Okay. Now, number four, the tendency is that you will feel okay if you are true to yourself. No, true to yourself meaning you true to your emotions. And most of the time, you have a certain sense of what it means to be true to yourself. So you should also question that definition. Is that subjective or objective? And what is the self that you think you are being true to? Is it a feeling? Is it a reaction? Right? And so you try to be so unique. These are the creative people. Remember, sometimes they would try to dress a certain way, live up to that person who looks very, very unique, speaks very uniquely, and is very, very creative, and yet, sometimes even that will not satisfy, right? Number five, you are good or okay if you have thoroughly mastered something. These are the ones who are uh, highly intellectual, especially in terms of logic, and they tend to live within a certain bubble, especially if they're an extreme number five. Um, the question here is really more for number three, Um, I should change the slide, but you should really be asking yourself, why do you have to why is it so important for you to have such a high level of perfection? Why who sets that level? Uh, and will it ever end? No, will it ever end? You should challenge yourself more to sometimes bring down the expectation, because usually that expectation is something that you just push on to yourself. Okay, number six, you are good or okay if you cover all the bases and do what is expected of you. So that's yourself. How can you even? So these are your overthinkers. These are the kind of people who are good team players because they will really make sure to accomplish everything. They will certainly deliver, but at the same time, they overthink everything. No, to an extent that even if no crisis has happened, they've already prepared for that. So even if things are looking good, they are ready for potentially negative outcome, and they have plan A until plan Z for all of those. So you should ask yourself, because it's so stressful to be overly prepared, no? And just the mere fact that you're entertaining the thought that things will go wrong all the time, can really be mentally stressful. So tell yourself, how can you even cover all the bases? And imagine the energy that you actually have to expend just to make sure that you cover all those bases, no? And does it really add meaning to you if you solve everybody else's problems? Okay. Number 7, you are good or okay if you feel good and are getting what you want. These are your fun people. Ito yung mga sinasabi kong kalad-gari, no? And they are very, very impulsive in the sense that they make decisions easily to join what they think is fun. They don't even pause to think whether that is worthwhile, no, or whether they are compromising something that is in the long term very, very important. So ask yourself, are you able, no, to really back off and think through whether a thing is a need or a want? And if that is not fulfilled at all, would you still be okay? No? And maybe even if you say that's a need, because the tendency is you always think of everything else as a need rather than relegate other things to want. No? Is that really a need? No, you have to be able to assess that. Or if it's a spectrum of needs, is it really, really important, no, that you sacrifice so many things in order to comply with it? Okay, number 8, you are good or okay as long as you are strong and in control of your situation. So these are your controlling types. They sometimes dominate in a very unhealthy sense. Okay, and this is really because they feel protected and strong if they are controlling the situation. No? So you should ask yourself, how much control do you really need? And by controlling, are you really sure that you are able to keep things intact? And you know that urge to control really always compromises your mental health. So ask yourself that, no? What does it do to your mental health? What are being compromised just because you want to control everything? Okay. The next one is you are good or okay as long as everyone around you is good or okay. These are your peacemakers. They listen to everybody else. They try to make sure that there are no conflicts. So they try to always calm down the situation. So you should ask yourself, how do you really make sure that everybody else is really okay? No? Why does it always have to be your problem? Okay. So, or maybe you can ask also yourself, is it just your criteria, no? Imposing on other people your criteria of what it means to be okay, being imposed on to other people. Okay. So try to ask yourself, why is your well-being really dependent on the happiness of other people? Why does it have to be your problem all the time? Okay. So in terms of spiritual practices, what you can do is well, potentially you can divide these personalities into three kinds of groups. So, for example, 3 and then 8 are the very, very assertive type of people. 3 is they want to achieve all the time. Your 7 are highly excitable, so they're always on the go for whatever they think is fine. Number 8 will always try to control the situation by being assertive in that sense. So maybe the best spiritual practice for you is one that allows you to be more in touch with the needs of others, no? So maybe you can join an outreach. And remember, one of the criteria is detachment. So I know that outreaches, no, especially trying to those outreaches wherein you are forced to exercise compassion upon other people or other elements of our communities, like the environment, might actually require certain levels of socialization, no? But try to do it in a way wherein you disengage. But you learn a lot, no, in terms of recognizing the needs of others and what it is to be actually compassionate, no? So that is something that you can actually do. Now, those of you who are more, how should I say it, you tend to be within your own self, no? Like 4, number 5, and number 9, no? Um, Maybe what you can do is you can engage yourself in things that allow you to be conscious of your physical body, no? For example, you can do yoga, those kinds of things, or a physical exercise. But the physical exercise should be something that you don't regularly do, no? It should be something that's not very easy for you to do, because the level of discomfort can also be the one that triggers your self-awareness. Remember, the goal here is self-awareness, being knowing oneself in a deeper way. You know, having that those kinds of senses that um, will allow us to be in tune with ourselves even more. Now, what about those number 1, number 2, and was that number 6? No, they're always trying to help other people, to go for the needs of other people. Maybe you can go on a silent retreat. Something that will really allow you, or force, or a meditation, no? Will allow you to focus on your own self and on your own needs. So try to think of something that is a little bit challenging for you to do. There's plenty of exercises. And when I say exercise, I'm not talking about, physical exercise. I'm talking about a spiritual practice that you can engage yourself in, but will allow you, put you in a space where your self-awareness will be heightened. No, you are more present. The distractions are not there, but will allow you to be more in tune with your own self. Even massage, getting a massage can actually be a very healthy practice, especially for those who, for example, number 2, people who are always trying to go around trying to help other people. Number 1 and number 9. So, you by doing this for your own self and trying to make sure that you experience the sensation of the massage instead of your mind wandering about and thinking of what you need to do next for other people, you should be able to enjoy the sensation. No? It should allow you to look into your own needs as well. Okay. So actually, for next meeting, one of the things that I wanted to think about is think about a very creative form of practice, a spiritual practice that might work for your own sense of personality. And there will be an activity that will be associated with this assignment. Okay, now if these are the marching orders of each of the type of the personalities, these are also the healing attitude, for the personalities. So, for example, number 1, try to develop an attitude that will make you think that maybe others are right and maybe someone else has a better idea in terms of what you think is right or wrong. Maybe they will also learn from themselves, and maybe there's also a cup to what you can drink. Okay. Number 2, instead of running around trying to help other people and trying to get some sense of relevance from your scurrying around, maybe you tell yourself, maybe I could let somebody do this time, and you do that as a consistent exercise. I'm sure your personality will always be active, but every now and then tell yourself, maybe for this one I can let somebody do it, and maybe you can tell yourself, maybe this person that I usually help already shows me love in their own way, and maybe it's time that I do something for myself too. Right? The third one is the people who are always trying to achieve. Tell yourself, maybe I don't have to be the best all the time. Maybe I can just put down all my defenses every now and then, and even in that sense, I will be accepted for who I am, and maybe other people's opinion of me are not as important. The usual way that I think of it, that tendency to always try to achieve or to come up to a certain level of relevance, is really a need for for the acceptance of other people's opinions. Number four, those who are highly emotional but really creative. You can tell yourself, maybe there's nothing wrong with me, no? Maybe I can go out there and enjoy instead of wallowing in my emotions. And maybe I'm not the only person understanding me, and maybe there are other people who actually understand me, right? Maybe you can go to a number nine and tell all of your woes to that person who's always willing to listen. Okay, and maybe you can tell yourself that you're not unique in your emotions and in your experience. Okay, number five, the highly intellectual and logical one. You can tell yourself, maybe I can trust people and let them know what I need, Maybe I don't have to keep thinking about the best idea all the time. And maybe the world will not crash if I will fail in coming up with this very unique idea. I can just be happy, And maybe my future will actually be okay. Number six, these are your overthinkers, no? Tell yourself, maybe this will work out fine. I only have to prepare for just one scenario, and that's it. And maybe I don't have to foresee all the potential problems and prepare all the possible resolution to this, no? Or maybe it's okay to fail. And maybe you can trust yourself and your own judgment. Okay. Number seven, those who are always seeking for fun. Maybe tell yourself, stay home and say, maybe what I have here is enough to be fun. And maybe I don't need to go anywhere else. I just need to home. And I'm not necessarily missing out on anything worthwhile, no? Because the tendency is there's a fear of missing out, FOMO, no? Number eight, instead of trying to control because you feel that other people will take advantage of you, maybe you can trust other people, okay? So that you can let off your guard every now and then. And maybe you allow your other people to come near to you emotionally, no? Because not everything in this world can just be controlled by certain activities. Number nine, ask yourself, maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I don't need to just be trying to put peace in everybody else. Maybe I need to get energized and really be involved, no, instead of trying to say, well, if I pick my mind, then things will go wrong. So I need to keep the pace, no? Maybe you can be a little bit more aggressive, no? Exert that power that is in you. Okay? So a very healthy, these are the healthy counterpart of each of the personalities. Now, if you practice mindfulness and spirituality and come to a healthy version of yourself, then you will be a more patient person instead of an angry person. Number two, instead of always trying to seek the approval of others, you will be respectful more of yourself. Number three, instead of always aiming for a certain goal in terms of what it means to succeed, then maybe you will be more authentic, no? Instead of always ascribing relevance to a certain position, certain credential, no, certain sense of success. Number four, instead of always being emotional, you will achieve a certain inner calm. Number five, you might learn to trust others more, no? Instead of always trusting your instinct and your intellect. Number six, you will be more confident instead of always, scared that something might go off. So you have to think of everything else. Groundedness, instead of always moving around, trying to find happiness or fun elsewhere. No, you can stay put and it's gonna be okay. Number eight, magnanimous. No, you are able to dialogue with other people, trust other people's opinion instead of trying to be controlling. No, and number nine, you have a sense of vitality. You're not always trying to keep the peace. but you learn to be more alive. You learn to be more involved because even if getting involved might cause a little bit of friction, then that's still okay. Okay. So you will notice that many of these, well, they're not necessarily the opposite of the unhealthy aspect of each of the personalities in the Enneagram, no, but they are more products of uh, achieving the healthy dose of the personality through very, very consistent and persistent practice. Okay. Um, so what we really need to do is we try to retire the ego. No, each of the personality has an ego that it is trying to put up. No, that this is where relevance is. This is where authenticity is. This is where people will appreciate me or where I appreciate myself. So once you retire that, you see your truth instead and your falseness as well, no? And you are able to actually contend that. And you begin to undo the illusion that you have made up for yourself, the usual reactions that you show out there in order to become defensive just because you feel that you are being threatened, whether it's by another person, by a situation. No, once we feel threatened, the defenses will normally come up, and each of the personality have their own ways of putting up certain defenses. Huh? You also see what is under the layer of the personalities that you normally hold on to. So you are no longer looking for ways to just no, the evolved state instead of the one that you think is relevant to the other people or relevant for yourself. It's really the authentic self. No, the evolved state is the authentic self. You become aware and available to real transformative moments. No, you know how to recognize that. Okay, this is a good moment. I can pause what I'm doing, even if I think that it puts a sense of relevance to me. I will take advantage of this moment because it will be a moment that will transform myself and bring me more authenticity. You are no longer attached to certain outcomes, which most of the time you just label as very, very important. No? And lastly, you live as a mature human being with a sense of inner peace, a higher sense of inner peace, who acts responsibly and compassionately, not just for yourself, no, but to the rest of the world as well. Okay, so what we need to do is to walk the walk, no, to look for a practice that is very, very relevant for us. And I think these frameworks that people go to, whether it's a religion or a practice or a system, that's the reason why they always try to come up with a certain framework of doing things, no? Because they think that it provides answer to this endless call to find our sense of purpose, no? And like I said, you don't have to stick to just one in order to find that. So example, under Buddhism, no, they have their eightfold path. In the Christian community, we have several, no? Love God and love your neighbor. Okay? What else? Ano pa ba yung mga systems that are out there? I'm sure you can think of other things, no? The enlightened path. Now, I don't think that you necessarily have to subscribe to just one, no? Unless that single one will really work well for you. But I think for personalities are so much more sophisticated and complicated that we might need to actually do a combination of each of the systems or at whatever will work for us from each of the systems. But at the same time as well, sometimes find ourselves retiring some of these practices just because they've become just because we've already achieved a certain sense of a healthy dose of personality and we just need to move on to the next. Diba? Like attend to another weakness of our personality. So you just have to work through each of those. Okay. So one of the best examples, no, that I thought really captures if we were to think of a time in our life when we were most authentic, where when we were so unconcerned with the demands that are imposed on us, the norms that and expectations that are imposed on us or we impose on ourselves. No, I think there's one period in our lives which represents that most. No, and I see it in the story of one of the volumes of Pooh. No? I think this is the last part, no? Christopher Robin and Pooh, no? This was when Christopher Robin is already very, very grown up, and he was having his last conversation with Pooh, no? He was grown up, uh, and I saw this when I remember reading this to my little boy one time, and it really touched me profoundly, no? Especially thinking about the tendency for people to always try to justify your own self. Let me just go through the story, no? So the story goes this way. Okay. So then suddenly again, Christopher Robin, who was still looking at the world with his chin in his hands, called out to Pooh. He says, Pooh. And Pooh answers, uh, yes. And Christopher Robin actually struggles to compose his words. And he just stammers and says, when, you know, Pooh, and Pooh tries to prompt him some more. He says, yes, Christopher Robin. And Christopher Robin says, I'm not going to do anything anymore. I think by this time, Christopher Robin has achieved so much. He's outgrown his little self. He's encountered so much crises and experiences. And he says, I'm never going to do anything anymore. And Pooh says, never again. And Christopher Robin says, well, not so much, because they don't let you anyway. Okay? And Pooh waits for him to go on, but Christopher Robin goes silent again. And he gets a prompting from Pooh again. Yes, Christopher Robin. Pooh, when I'm not doing nothing, remember he says I'm not going to do anything anymore. Will you come up here sometime? No, in that hill overlooking the world. And Pooh says, just me? Yes, Pooh, says Christopher Robin. Okay. Will you be here too? Asked Pooh. Yes, Pooh. I will be here. Really, I promise, I will be here. That's good, says Pooh. And he makes two promises. He says, promise you won't forget about me. Not even when I'm 100. And this request from Christopher Robin is really very, very profound. Because I think so many things that we do in life is really us telling other people, please don't forget about me. No? I want to remain to be relevant. Okay? So Pooh thinks for a little while. By that time, how old shall I be? 99, says Christopher Robin. And Pooh nods. Okay, I promise, says Pooh. Still, with his eyes on the world, Christopher Robin puts out a hand and feels Pooh's paw. Remember, if you read Winnie the Pooh before, this is what they do all the time. They hold hands. No? What happens? Okay? Whenever they are about to play. Okay? Pooh, says Christopher Robin earnestly. And then he struggles again and stammers. If I'm not quite, and then he just says, Pooh, whatever happens, you will understand, won't you? No, it's so difficult for Christopher Robin to articulate what is in his heart. No, he's struggling so much with all the burden in his heart, and struggling also for trying to subscribe to that need to feel relevant and not to be forgotten. And yet there is Pooh there, who he thinks is the only person that understands him. And Pooh says, understand what? And Christopher Robin says, oh, nothing. Let's just go. And he laughed and jumped to his feet. And Pooh says, where? Anywhere, answers Christopher Robin. No? And the story ends this way, and it really ends the series. No? And it's so heartbreaking and full of emotion and so satisfying at the same time. So they went off together, but wherever they go and whatever happens to them, all the way in that enchanted place on the top of the forest, a little boy and his bear will always be playing. No, um, this story, although it's made for children, it's very profound in so many ways. No, especially this last part of the story, because we always get to that part in our life when we are so exhausted, trying to adapt to this uh, set of expectation that maybe we have imposed on ourselves or others have imposed on us, whether it's family, the institution, no, it's just constructed for us. That we have forgotten what it means to tap to that part of our life that allows us to play and just be authentic and just be our own selves, no? And I hope that despite that, no, despite how life can be sophisticated and complicated at the same time, no, that there will always be a proverbial Pooh for us, no? Something that will, or someone that actually might allow us or put us in a space where uh, we get to the deepest sense of ourselves and make us realize that we are understood somehow, no? And well, that's the end of the story here. But let me just talk about my eldest son, who has his version of Pooh. This is my eldest son when he was a little boy, and the one on the left is his picture when he was 1 year old. We gave him several bears, no, but he was so attached to this bear, and we named this bear Lapso. Okay, the one on the right is when he was 5 years old. I think, yeah, no, 6 years old, and we just arrived back in the Philippines, and you can see that the bear is already tattered. Uh, this bear, whom we call Lacho, he goes around with him everywhere, no? Um, so when Liam, my eldest, was I think 3 years old, I brought him to a fellowship in Europe, which allowed us to travel quite a bit, no? And Lazlo was with us everywhere. Every now and then we lose him, and fortunately we always have managed to retrieve him. He's lost the bow, the maroon bow. You can see that he's very, very thin. I've performed a lot of surgeries on him already. We don't have the eyes anymore. You can see that the fur is not as nice. Liam is now 13 years old. I wish I put a picture here now. I should really update this set of slides because he's quite grown up now. He's now in grade 8, and yet he still sleeps with food. No, and whenever he feels bad, he would just look for food. Not food, Latso, no. And Latso gives him, it's like a security blanket. And I've offered to replace it so many times already, and I've even offered not to put him away. I said, let's just put him in a box, and then just so you have, just so he will really not get so what do you call this? So parang masira ng husto, no? So that he will last you for a long. But I will give you another bear to actually hug when you're asleep, no? Because even when and he usually has this bear when he's very sad. He really looks for Latso. And nobody can touch Latso. So this is Latso now. You can see how thin he has become. I've replaced the fillers several times already. Every now and then he gets a hole. I've tried to look for a place where I can get him redone, in a very nice way. Because back in Europe they have something like that, no? And like I said, I've always asked Liab to, replace him with something else, but he doesn't want, no? Because it seems like he finds relevance. No, there is something that reminds Lasso has there's something about Lasso that reminds Liab of who he is, no, that he is understood. And we don't have to have such kind of such kind of uh an object. Maybe it can be a person, maybe it can be an idea, no. What I'm trying to say is that I think the point in our life where we are most authentic, we are most honest, is when we were kids. And at some point, because of the sophistication and the exhaustion of life, we have gotten rid of it. Now, I'm not saying that we should go back to that. Well, we can go back to that every now and then, but I'm not saying that we should, because part of our childhood also means irresponsibility, that we go back to that part of our life where we are irresponsible, but we should always be able to that part to tap to that part of our life where we are most authentic, and we should not really bid goodbye to it, because like what the author of Winnie the Pooh says, of course it isn't really goodbye because the forest will always be there. And I hope you will find your own forest. And anybody who is friendly with bears, and also your bears, anybody who is friendly with bears can always find that forest, where you are most authentic, you are most joyful, you are most fulfilled. Okay? So your activity is to think of a practice that works well with your personality. You should be able to explain why that practice will work with your personality. And I wanted to think small, not big immediately. The reason why we fail often is because we think in big terms, we're not very realistic, especially as doing a practice in spirituality is not really very easy, Remember I said just getting bored, exercising the practice of being bored is very, very difficult. So even for getting bored, start with something like 10 minutes, detach, not do anything. You just stare, you just allow your mind to be aware of the sensations and the emotions that you have at that state. That's already very difficult. What more an hour of it, So if you think of a practice, be realistic with it. Okay? I'll see you next time.